Today and Across the Fence, our focus is on the Vermont Respite House. It's a home away from home where the Visiting Nurse Association provides skilled, personalized care for terminally ill patients. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. It's not always easy to talk about end-of-life choices, but the Visiting Nurse Association offers programs and resources that make it easier for patients and families who are coping with terminal illness. One of those resources is VNA's Respite House in Williston. The Respite House is not a hospital, nursing home, or institution. It is the only Medicare-certified hospice home in the state. Joining me is Angel Means. Angel is the director for VNA's End-of-Life Care, and she is here this afternoon to discuss the care and services of Vermont Respite House. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Let me start by telling us what hospice care is.
Well, hospice is a program that provides medical and support services for people who have a terminal diagnosis, approximately a prognosis of around 6 months or less. Most people recognize hospice as a Medicare-certified program, but now Medicaid and almost all other insurances provide hospice care or cover hospice care. And there's usually no out-of-pocket fee for anyone who accesses hospice. The real focus of hospice is on maximizing someone's quality of life and supporting their loved ones fully so that we can honor wherever they choose to die at the end of their lives. And most people want to die in their own individual homes.
Surrounded by their family.
Yes. We provide hospice in all settings, though, now. We provide hospice in nursing homes and community care homes, and, of course, our topic today at Vermont Respite House.
Can you just describe what type of situation or health condition that a person would have to have that would make the Respite House an option?
Sure. Like I said, most people would prefer to stay at home, and many people do until the final weeks, when they recognize that a person's care needs may far exceed what they're really able to provide at home as a family or friend or neighborhood support system. Sometimes there are symptoms that a person experiences at the end of life, such as confusion, maybe pain, other symptoms that can be difficult to manage in a home setting. And so someone may transition to Vermont Respite House then. Also, it can become very tiring and fatiguing for a family to provide that around-the-clock support that someone needs when they're dying at home. So there may be a time where they recognize that they're no longer really able to be the wife or the daughter. They're providing full-time caregiving support. And if a person goes to Respite House at that stage, their family can relax some and let others provide the care and really step in then to be more that supportive family member.
Because it's a tremendous amount of work, and it's also emotional work.
Yes, very much so.
So how long do people typically stay?
The length of stay at Respite House is approximately 3 weeks. And again, that is because so many people do rally together to try to keep their loved one at home.
Right. And so how is Respite House different from, say, a nursing home or other type of facility?
Well, I think if you ever visited Vermont Respite House, as soon as you walk in, you would recognize that it really doesn't feel like a medical setting at all. You're going to smell beautiful aromas of fresh cooked baked goods. You might see family members in the common area, children laughing. On any given day, you might hear our hospice choir singing in the background or find someone in the foyer playing the piano. There's unlimited visiting hours at Vermont Respite House. So behind the scenes, we can be providing pretty intensive medical support, but you would never know that walking into the home.
Must be a tremendous relief for family members to know that their loved one is getting that kind of care.
Yes, it is.
So tell us a little bit more about the home itself. How many rooms are there?
There are 13 rooms, all private rooms. There's a common area where family members often get to know each other and get reacquainted with old friends who come to visit. We have a full kitchen that families can have some access to, and we provide individualized meals to all of our residents. There's beautiful grounds surrounding the home. If you look out your window, you're going to see a bird feeder with birds and beautiful landscaping. So it's a very peaceful environment.
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk a little bit about the services and support that are available.
Well, we have 24 hours around the clock RN and nursing assistant support. We have support from a hospice medical director. The entire hospice, all of the hospice services under the hospice benefit are provided at Respite House. So our chaplain may visit someone. We have a bereavement coordinator who provides grief support, counseling, social workers. So a full interdisciplinary team provides the support there.
So it's really for the entire family.
Yes. And hospice supports the entire family prior to the death and also following the death through bereavement support.
Mm-hmm. And tell me a little bit about the visiting hours, the 24-hour access. That must be hugely comforting to people to know anytime they want to go in, they can.
It is, and that is true. And we've had people also, we can accommodate on occasion people staying overnight in the room with their loved one. We've had residents who were husband and wife who were both on hospice at the same time, and we were able to accommodate them staying together in one room. That doesn't happen that often, but sometimes it does, and it's nice when we can accommodate that. We've also had residents bring a beloved cat to stay with them in their final weeks of life, and we're able to put up a screen door so that the cat stays in the room, and so we've accommodated pets as well.
It sounds like pretty much you can sort of tailor anybody's experience.
Right, and that really is the approach to hospice, really recognizing that everyone's a unique individual and their dying process is very individual, and so our care plan is individualized to support that and recognize that and honor that. And
so do you have a lot of families who will contact you after their loved one has passed and just reach out anyway?
We do. We follow families through our bereavement support, but I think that experience is so poignant for families. We'll have people stop in just to periodically just to say thank you again for the care that was provided to their loved one. They make a really strong connection to the staff and the volunteers in the home, even for that brief time that someone's there. And we all really become family.
You know, it's something that everyone's going to have to deal with eventually. Why is it that we wait until the very end to make these kinds of plans?
That's an excellent question, and I think it has a complex answer. There are many, many reasons. It's very difficult for some people to accept the fact that they do have a very limited prognosis. There are a lot of treatments available to people up until the very end of life, and a lot of people will choose to pursue that even though they're continuing to actually die and decline. And I think just the whole psychological component of recognizing that death is imminent is very difficult.
Also difficult for family members as well.
Right.
And so we're going to talk a little bit more about the volunteers at the Vermont Respite House, but first we're going to highlight some contact information for the Visiting Nurse Association and Vermont Respite House. To learn more, the VNA invites your phone call. The number is 802-658-1900. You can also explore the Respite House and other VNA resources and programs and services by checking out the website on your screen. It's vnacares.org. We'll review the contact information before the end of this program. But joining us now is Pat Mayette. Pat volunteers with the Vermont Respite House and has kindly agreed to be with us to tell us about her experience. How long have you been volunteering?
I have been volunteering at the Vermont Respite House for 19 years.
Why did you decide to do this?
Partly personal. My husband spent the last 10 weeks of his life at the Respite House, and it was such a blessing, such a gift to all of us, that I decided that if this was something I could do to help, return, I would love to do that. And so I began, a year after he died, I began volunteering there.
And what are some of the things that you do?
Many things. I started out doing lunches and cooking meals, doing whatever needed to be done. I took the hospice training course, and so then I became more involved with each of the residents and their support care. And there are so many things that you can do if you want to volunteer at Respite House. There's meals, there's house care, there's shopping, there's, you know, being with the families and doing tours for folks, and there are a lot of things that can be done.
You don't have to necessarily be an expert.
You don't have to be an expert. You will be trained, and you will, you know, have a lot of people, a lot of resources, and it's just very, it's very enriching.
And so what keeps you coming back year after year? You've been doing this a long time.
Long time. I think with the Respite House, it's a sense of community, and the residents are wonderful. We have, as Angel mentioned, we have just the most fabulous staff that you could ever imagine. The sense of being together in a final journey is very fulfilling. It's really a living house, and we emphasize living until someone is no longer able.
It's a difficult subject, and you know, this is something that you dealt with personally, but now you're involved in other people's stories as well. Isn't that difficult to do? It is, but it's also very rewarding, and I think that you have to kind of keep in mind that this is another person's journey, and you're honored and you're privileged to be part of that journey, but it is someone else's journey, and so you have to set it aside just a little bit and not make it yours. And if you can do that, and it's a very conscious effort that we all work on, it allows you to, you know, be part of the program for a long time. Can you give me some examples of some of those things that you've done where you've said, well, it's someone else's journey, but I can support them in a certain way?
We refer to that often as self-care, and if you're a hospice volunteer, it's very much a part of your program. And I personally, each time I leave the Respite House, I use the chapel, and it's a very lovely non-denominational chapel, very quiet space. And I just go in and sit and think about what happened that day, and I'll say, okay, all right, and kind of replay it, and then I physically, mentally, emotionally just leave it there. And that for me is a very cleansing kind of event at the end of my day.
You know, it's such a personal time in someone's life and a family's life. There must be, too, kind of a sense of privilege that you get to be part of that on some level.
It is. It is a very. I think that you used the word honor. It's a very big honor. We feel very privileged to be invited in, and family members and clients really are so thankful, so grateful for the outside support that it makes us a unit quite quickly.
Are people surprised at their experience at Respite House, do you think?
I think they are. I think that there's a lot of trepidation when you have to make the decision to move from home, and it's a big tug, you know, for folks. And after maybe 24, 48 hours, I'm so glad I did this. Why didn't I do this sooner? And so it's reassuring. It's a very safe haven.
And we talked about this earlier, but I mean, there's so much emotion involved, and you know, stress to a certain extent on both sides. You know, the person who comes to the house for their final days knows the kind of stress that the families are under.
Exactly.
Probably it's a big relief for them.
Right. I think it is. I really think it is, and I think the relief comes in knowing that someone else understands that, and that they're not crazy and they're not out there on their own, and it's a very stressful time. It's just difficult all the way around.
It must be nice too to know that the family members will get the care after you're gone to cope with the next step. So if someone's interested in the Vermont Respite House, how should they get in touch with you, or what's the process?
Well, they can call the VNA's main number 658-1900 and ask for our hospice program. And we can always put them in touch with Vermont Respite House. We always encourage families to take a tour if possible. That just kind of demystifies, you know, what the house is all about. So if they can go ahead of time and visit, and sometimes residents actually are able to do that as well, that's always the best planning, I think.
And if people are interested in volunteering?
They can contact our VNA website, vnacares.org, and also call 658-1900. And I do want to make everyone aware that we do offer 2 full 11-week trainings twice a year. And then we have some what we call mini trainings for some of the Respite House, the Vermont Respite House volunteers.
That's terrific. I want to thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.